Hi, my name is Alyssa Krumlauf, and I am one of the associate directors at PCORI, the Patient-Centered Outcomes Research Institute within our Clinical Effectiveness and Decision Science group. I've been at PCORI since May of last year, 2022. Prior to that, I was at the NIH Clinical Center, where I studied sleep and other health behaviors, largely in individuals with alcohol use disorders. I spent some time at the NIH Center for Scientific Review, where I ran the MESH study section, which stands for Biobehavioral Mechanisms of Emotion, Stress, and Health. And I actually attended the Young Investigator Research Forum way back when. So I'm very happy to be here sharing a little bit with you about PCORI and the type of research we fund, as well as opportunities for early career investigators. I have no conflicts of interest to disclose. Here are our learning objectives, largely, talking about PCORI, the mission and the type of work we fund, a little bit about the application process and how our review process may differ from NIH and other entities, and then talking a bit about evidence gaps in sleep health research and potential areas of opportunity for comparative effectiveness research, herein referred to as CER. PCORI is an independent research institute. We were authorized by Congress in 2010 and semi-recently reauthorized in 2019. We are governed by a 21-member board of governors that represents the entire healthcare community. And we fund comparative clinical effectiveness research, CER, that engages patients and other stakeholders throughout the research process. One of the things I love most about working at PCORI is that we really take patient and stakeholder engagement very seriously. We are mindful of it through all phases of research, from conceptualization through dissemination. And we look for answers to real-world questions about what treatments or interventions work best for patients based on their unique circumstances and concerns. So basically, what works best for whom, under what circumstances. Our overarching mission is to help people make informed healthcare decisions, ultimately improving healthcare delivery and outcomes by producing and promoting high-integrity, evidence-based info coming from research guided by patients, caregivers, and the broader healthcare community. This came from our legislative mandate and subsequent work from our board and staff that really, like I said, translates into practice. Our strategic plan offers a framework that helps us achieve the mission that I just discussed. It builds on our past work in generating and promoting the use of patient-centered comparative clinical effectiveness research, but it also recognizes the need for PCORI as an organization to remain responsive to ongoing changes in the healthcare landscape. So our 5 priorities are outlined on this slide. And as I mentioned, we really do engage stakeholders in all phases of research, from skill building and infrastructure development. They have a say in our prioritization of topics via advisory panels and other methods. They are part of our merit review panels and ultimately the research teams of the projects that do get funded. They're part of our dissemination and implementation process and all the way through policy and practice. So more examples of this to come later in our presentation. So what is CER? CER generates and synthesizes evidence that compares benefits and harms of at least 2 different methods to either prevent, diagnose, treat, or monitor a condition or improve healthcare delivery. We want to look at benefits in real-world populations and outcomes that are important to patients and their caregivers and other important stakeholders. We want to look at the results in different subgroups of people and look at the heterogeneity of treatment effects when possible. We ultimately want to inform consumers, clinicians, purchasers, policymakers to help them make decisions that improve care for individuals and populations, or inform a specific clinical or policy decision. We also fund patient-centered outcomes research, high priority. So patient-centered outcomes research is a relatively, newer form of CER that's focused on patient needs and preferences, what the outcomes that they care about, and what those are. Like I said, what works best for whom under what circumstances, and ultimately helping them make better informed decisions about their options. We're also focused on special and specific populations, and they're listed here. Often, we're interested in underserved and or vulnerable or minority populations, and I won't read them all, but they are listed on the slide. We have funded over 1,900 awards totaling over $3.4 billion in 49 states plus DC and Puerto Rico, and these data are actually about a year old. So we've surpassed these numbers since that time. By the numbers, so if you look under infrastructure in the dark blue, you'll see that PCORNet is mentioned. It's the National Patient-Centered Clinical Research Network, which is comprised of health data, research expertise, and patient insights, and really includes curated electronic healthcare record data from over 66 million patients. I also want to highlight that we have a large and rapidly growing mental and behavioral health portfolio. We're all here because we're interested in sleep in some way. And as we all know, sleep is a multidimensional and cross-cutting aspect of health that affects virtually every system and outcome. So I hope that by the end of this, you'll see that it's so cross-cutting and there are so many opportunities here at PCORI to focus on sleep. I wanted to just provide a high-level overview of our merit review process. The first phase is that investigators submit letters of intent. This is slightly different than what happens at NIH. This doesn't happen there. So basically, you submit a condensed version of your research plan, and that's first reviewed, and then you're either invited or not to submit a full application. And we really do this to ensure that the applications that come in are aligned with the scope of the type of work we fund, as well as our overarching mission. Reviewers then do a preliminary assessment of full applications. And I want to highlight that this is a time where we do involve stakeholders. So in addition to scientists and researchers and clinicians where appropriate, we involve patients and patient advocates and other stakeholders in the actual review of applications. After online preliminary scores are submitted, we have our in-person panel reviews, and ultimately, subsequently, the top scoring applications go to our selection committee, which is a subgroup of our board of governors, who makes the final recommendation for funding to our executive director, Nikayla Cook. So I wanted to highlight a little bit about our existing sleep portfolio. It is relatively small, but you will see in a few slides that we hope it will grow in the near future. Right now, we have around 7 research awards, CER, totaling just under 20 million, 3 of which are focused on sleep apnea, 3 of which are focused on insomnia, and then 1 is more of a general sleep health. We do have 1 methods project that has since been migrated into research. It's not pictured, but I'm happy to share more information on that if you're interested. We also have a small but mighty engagement award. You can see the topics of those awards listed on the left. And on the right, you'll see a photo of our recent topic brief that we put together on treatment for insomnia and other sleep disturbances, specifically among people with developmental disabilities. At a recent Board of Governors meeting, our board approved a set of candidate topic themes, which are highlighted here. We're considering all of them for potential future funding announcements and doing the exploratory kind of preliminary assessment of where the gaps are and what the opportunities might be. They're listed here. focused on populations, health behavior, and health conditions, one of which I've highlighted is promoting sleep health. And we are currently in, like I said, the very early stage information gathering phase. What we have gleaned so far from the beginning of our stakeholder engagement are some evidence gaps that we hope will translate it into CER opportunities in the future. The first is the lack of patient-centered outcomes in sleep in general. There's often variation in treatment goals for sleep disorders between patients and their providers. There's a discord there. We're also very interested in the opportunities to incorporate technology into outcome assessment because everyone now has a Fitbit or an Apple Watch, and people like data. We're also interested in sequenced or combined treatments for insomnia and OSA, the two most prevalent sleep disorders, as I'm sure many of you are familiar with. Looking at long-term treatment effects. Disparities. So there are pressing, urgent disparities in insomnia and OSA screening, diagnosis, and treatment. Potential opportunities to rethink the way that we assess and ultimately improve sleep health in underrepresented and high-need populations. And there's also opportunities for structural and systems level factors. So, potentially multi-level interventions. Priority populations also came up quite a bit when we think about disparities. So thus far, we're thinking about shift workers, perinatal, rural, and also identifying barriers to the delivery of interventions as well as screening and treatment. There's variation in treatment-related barriers and access between modes of treatment, whether it's in-person, telehealth, or digital, and we're mindful of those. And then we're also looking into evidence-based treatments or treatments that are in common clinical use outside of the gold standard cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia and CPAP for OSA. So thinking about, again, what's evidence-based and what are people currently using? We have a list of all open, past, and future upcoming funding announcements on the website listed on this slide. I encourage you to peruse it. Our time is limited today, but please take a look, and our contact information is later in the presentation if you're interested. I also wanted to highlight two early career opportunities. We've partnered with AHRQ to build the expertise and capacity of scientists to conduct comparative effectiveness research in learning health systems. This program is called the AHRQ PCORI Institutional Mentored Career Development Program, and it's funded via AHRQ's K-12 mechanism. The way that this partnership works is that PCORI provides funding to HRQ, and then they administer the program. We jointly oversee the program. The first phase has so far resulted in $40 million in grants over 5 years, including our PCORI's commitment of $30 million. The next phase of this work is the HRQ PCORI Learning Health System Embedded Scientist Training and Research, or LHS eStar Centers Program. This funding announcement, I believe, was released back in December and is currently open. This is also a 5-year program and will utilize HRQ's P30 mechanism. Similar logistics in terms of funding and management, but we're planning $50 million in P30 grants over 5 years. And lastly, there is a notice of funding opportunity that's now open, closing in March. I just realized that by the time you see this, that date will likely have been passed, but I did want to share that this is where you would have found the link. Like I said, I've included the overarching general website where you can find a list of all of our ongoing funding announcements, including any targeted that may be in an area of interest or expertise that you have. We also have a workforce development request for information RFI ongoing. So in line with our national priorities for health, this unit was created to develop and lead strategies to support human capital components of the research infrastructure. So clinicians, researchers, communities, patient caregivers, people who both lead and partner in research. So ultimately, this workforce development will oversee a portfolio of funding and partnerships to support, like I said, training and career development, and support the workforce in building skills and capacity in innovative approaches to engagement, data technology, methods, and other areas. I've linked, and I will make sure that you have access to these slides, a link to our updated strategic plan and our last summer Board of Governors meeting presentation slides, which go over the 8 approved candidate topic themes, including sleep health. There's a link to PCORI, and there's a few engagement opportunities for you to consider and or share with your network. And I'll close by saying that we are always available to answer questions. I've listed pretty much every way of contacting us. There's a general email address, which is info@pcori.org. If you have a question about a funding opportunity or anything about the process, I encourage you to reach out to sciencequestions@pcori.org, and your question will be routed appropriately. Thanks so much for having me. I'm happy to answer follow-up questions to the best of my ability and share more resources as you are interested. I hope you enjoy the Young Investigator Research Forum experience, and I hope to hear from you soon.